Secretary Hegseth, regarding the escalating conflict in Iran, what is our exact strategy with the bombs?
The bombs. I'll tell you about the bombs. Nerd. You think Iran knows bombs. I mastered the bombs in 2004 at a frat house in Hoboken. Phase 1, the Jaeger bomb, German engineering. You take a shot of Jägermeister, you drop it into a crisp glass full of Red Bull, and you chug it. Total, immediate devastation of your central nervous system.
Sir, we're referring to the bombings in the Middle East.
Phase 2, the sake bomb. You balance the sake shot on 2 chopsticks over a Japanese lager. I prefer an ice-cold Sapporo. Now you pound the table with your fists like a goddamn patriot until it drops. Full Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Boom.
Sake bomb!
Okay. Well, have there been any updates on a possible end date to this war?
And if they push us, we go nuclear. Phase 3, the Irish car bomb. Jameson. Bailey's. Drop straight into a pint of Guinness. You have to chug it before the cream curdles. It is a race against time and your own gag reflex. Every last drop, you bozos.
Oh my God. I can smell him.
You media elites, weak, pathetic nerds, you can't handle these bombs? Now who's got a lighter? I'm doing a flaming Dr. Pepper.
Dipping on some scissors, dipping on some dipping on some scissors, dipping on some dipping on some scissors, dipping on some dipping on some scissors, dipping on some
Sir, Iranians have released a new Lego-style animation.
There it is. You hear the bells. You hear it. It's ringing. Man, we ain't got a lot of followers on YouTube. We got a lot of followers, though, on your Twitter today, guys. Want to thank you all for joining us today. It is TruthWire time, which Truth Time. It's here. I'm your host, Craig Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And, of course, we'd like to thank Jayme CheeseSlice on the ones and twos out there, who's engineering the show, putting it down. Fam, we got some exciting stuff going on today. I want to send a special shout out really quickly to my friend R.C. Williams and his beautiful wife, Juliana. They are common sense conservatives is what I like to call them. I know they were covering CPAC, fam, over the last couple of days. And man, was that a mess when you looked at it online. But the crowd did cheer when they talked about impeaching Donald Trump. So we're seeing more of their type. R.C. and Juliana, I met them at many events. The last event I met them, fam, was in Orlando, the event that Dr. David Martin was there. I think you went to a same event with the medical freedom movement to talk about what's going on. And today, after this show is going to end around 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to take a quick break. And at 2:30, we're going to have a conflicting COVID narratives panel, fam. We're finally opening the door to this. You know, the Iran war is going on, and we're going to be talking about that, of course. But we wanted to start having these conversations, COVID from the left. Edwin DeJesus is one of the contributors to this channel. He'll come back in about a month. He's taking care of some business. But today, me and Matt Weinglass are going to have a panel with our old friend Ron Placone, fam, and Leila Charles Lay from the Punch Up podcast. And we're going to talk about the conflicting COVID narratives because we were common sense leftists, is what we called ourselves, or people called us, that really weren't with the COVID protocols. So we're going to have those conversations today. But everything is just kind of fitting in. So special thanks to R.C. Williams and Juliana for being common sense conservatives, fam, because there are a lot of Christian conservatives out there that are anti-Zionist and that are pointing out the fact that what we have with us, this whole Iran war and everything going on, and these guys are great, the impending technocracy that's at our doorsteps. We had this Facebook case, fam, where, you know, the plaintiffs, right, the defendants were rewarded that they have to have all these protections for children. But as they have all these protections for children, when you have to verify, that's more track and trace system. So we want to point out those people on the other side that kind of are looking, hey, we're not going to play team sports. We're going to point out and we're going to push what's in front of us here. And we don't want this impending technocracy, the AI that's going off, fam, left and right, that are being used in this war, the AI that was used to bomb those children. So there's a lot of stuff that's in front of us, and I think that we're going to see the same thing. We had this issue with Obama, right? We were there. We were out in front, the lesser of two evils. I think they're witnessing that with Donald Trump, but we're all kind of saying this together. I think you've said it, fam. Evil is evil, and we got to stop fucking voting for it.
We just have to stop voting at all because it doesn't change anything. I mean, I don't know how many times, we have to get into this conversation, fam. Voting is not solving any problems. Clearly, the last 10 years are entirely proof of that. They're never going to allow somebody that is a threat to come to power. They're just not. It's not, and you're not going to overwhelm the system. You're not just magically going to be able to do it. The United States is long past that. We're literally seconds away from bombing Iran to prove a point. And the Zionist control extends beyond the United States, extends beyond Israel. It's even bigger than Zionism. It's just a mentality of they want to take over, they want to control everything, and that's where we're headed. And we're seeing a lot of things be implemented to push us towards that. We're seeing a lot of controlled opposition, a lot of narratives that are being pushed out, like the super anti Jew narrative too is also a narrative that's actually weaponized, where people just hyper focus on Israel and they want to give all the blame to Israel. Well, that's that's to give America freedom and to have people replace the MAGA sector with another sector that's supposedly anti-Zionist, but really, it's not about that. It's about just trying to wash away the accountability that the United States should have, and I'm not for that either. So I think there's in these coming months and years, we have to tread very carefully with a lot of the narratives being thrown out there, and kind of self-reflect. Are you getting your thoughts from what you see online, or are you actually looking into things and questioning and researching it and figuring it out for yourself before you allow supposed people you trust to influence you? Because I would want everybody to do their own research and to do their own thinking. And I see a lot of things are just taken as fact out there. And on more than one occasion, it's been discovered that a lot of what's said online is entirely false. So I just think this is the era of psychological warfare, and we have to be careful.
I do believe the technocrats sit above the Zionists. I really do. I believe that Peter Thiel has had more free reign and more power than Bibi Netanyahu. So I do believe it's about individuals who will weaponize this whole situation. I believe there's no such thing really as a Zionist. I believe that it's just, somebody who's using that kind of rhetoric to further themselves and further the oligarchs, the 1%, the technocrats, to gain more riches and more powers to control the resources. And their biggest enemy, the empire's biggest enemy, is its own citizens here in the United States. So they have to keep us divided and fighting with each other. We had the No Kings protest over the weekend, fam. I was able to talk on RT about it. Very interesting, and it was kind of, it was a little bit different when people were like, hey, man, why didn't you get involved? Why didn't you get out there? I'm like, because this is a corporate sponsored event. It's not like Minnesota, which it was organic. It really was. And you look at the signs, there was no corporate sponsors over there. And even though that event was thrown by a lot of the people that were not crazy about, the ideologues, whatnot, it was definitely organic and people got out there. This one, they try to draw a line. And that's what these Democrats are doing right now. They have their new people out there, their new sheepdogs, but they're trying to draw this parallel with Gaza and Ukraine. And they're really trying to sell that. So it's really not an anti-war movement whatsoever. When they talk about elections, they throw out buzzwords like ranked choice voting. Fam, will ranked choice voting work in a system that we have like this, where there's so many holes and such a lack of transparency? I mean, we go and observe these elections. We're going to be observing the Peruvian election sooner than later. That's right around the corner. But if you throw ranked choice voting into the mix, is that really going to fix anything or solve anything, fam?
Of course not. Like, it's a great idea in a system that would be fair, but it's not.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it, because we hopefully got some new people watching the show today. We want to thank everybody for supporting independent media. If you want to help out, we have a Give, Send, Go. And if you care and you can't give, then share. Hit that share button on the Give, Send, Go. It's givesendgo.com/election integrity matters. Jayme, you're going to put it up? Thank you. Election integrity matters. Guys, we get that 2197. We haven't got to that 2200. Look, we need all your help we can get out there. We're still demonetized on YouTube. I'm going to be diving back into it, seeing what's going on. There's a lot of confusion. They might monetize us again, but the damage is already done, right? When we were one of the hottest channels out there on the left, growing, going crazy, they kneecapped us. They demonetized us. And even though they monetized my Pasta to Go channel, they still demonetize a lot of the actual videos that I try to put up there. So there's a shadow ban going on. The other day, a friend of mine, fam, on Twitter, was trying to tag me in her post. She could not tag me. And that shit happens on Twitter all the time. It's a normal thing. With Wyatt Reed put out a post, and they put talking about Rubio, talking about basics. He had the receipts to bring there, that, what Donald Trump is doing over there, is bullshit. And Rubio, he caught Rubio in a lie. His tweet went viral, but then they put a community note down there that was a lie. And every time you try to click on the community note a lot, it would say not there, not existing. It's weird, the fuckery that goes on, but there are a lot of shadow bans. The voices that are excelled or lifted up are those of the tribal nature, the tribalist. Those, like, I mean, that CPAC thing was ridiculous. Had people up there like Nick Shirley. Even Candace Owens was bagging on Nick Shirley the other day, fam. I mean, you're going to promote these guys out there. They're just ridiculous. The Benny Johnsons and Nick Sorters. Who did freaking CPAC have? What's his name? Bavino, the ex-Border Patrol guy. Deport them all. I mean, that mentality out there, it's just so ridiculous. So we need your help, guys. If you can't if you can't give a share. But if you can give, please give a couple bucks. We're gonna start putting this money to work right away. We got an election coming up a couple weeks. We will be covering it, but we'll also be covering the people on the ground. Peru is going to be one of the front lines for what's going on in Latin America. Fam, it's been picking up in Ecuador. U.S. military operations are going on over there. Yeah, we got Iran, we got Gaza, we got all this stuff. Ukraine, nobody's paying attention what's going on in Latin America. And we said that the Trump administration would focus a lot of attention. It's your tax dollars going on. This is going to lead to more migration to the southern border, fam. In Ecuador, it's heating up. Peru's going to be a hot spot. We're going to help you win Thanksgiving dinner, guys. You listen to us. We'll give you your information beforehand. We'll give you the notes you need to have to win that Thanksgiving dinner debate with your uncle, who's just going to be talking about Fox News talking points, or your aunt who's going to be repeating CNN and MSNBC or MSN Now talking points. We're going to give you the information you need to win that discussion. So go on over to our Give, Send, Go, givesendgo.com/election integrity matters. Help us out. It's TruthWire time, guys. Let's get busy. Fam, breaking news, if you want to get into it. We saw it this morning. The TV was actually on for my mother. Jayme, let's dive into it. Breaking news. Go ahead. Sorry.
I had Russian oil to Cuba that landed.
Yeah.
So is that what
Wanna
you're
start
going
with
to talk
that?
about or no?
Sure.
No, yeah, it's not because we don't have a section for it. I'm just briefly going to talk about it because there's not.
Sure.
We
You want
have
to talk at the beginning or the end? We could talk very beginning or the end. Which one?
just right now. I just
All
want
right.
to go ahead and
So
mention.
you go first on that because the breaking news we have was about the Strait of Hormuz will lead into the section. So talk about the Russian oil to Cuba, please.
Yeah, I just want to mention that Dmitry Peskov confirmed that the issue of sending aid to Cuba was already discussed with the Americans. So again, this isn't something that where Putin said, I'm going to defy Donald Trump and I'm just going to send oil. There were conversations had about sending oil. And Russia, it looks like the ship, the tanker with 100 tons of crude oil has reached Cuba. It is awaiting to unload. I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm really hoping that some oil gets to Cuba because they haven't had anything since the beginning of the year. And it's absolute insanity that that's happened. And no other country has been willing to break the siege. And here's the thing, Russia didn't break the siege. There were negotiations prior with, I think last week you guys saw that we covered Kirill Dmitriev and the conversations about economic transactions. So likely there was a conversation, as Dmitry Peskov says, that was discussed regarding Cuba. And Cuba is also an ally of Iran. So there could have been some potential conversations. That part is just me analyzing the situation. We don't know for sure, but there could have been some conversations of attempting to, from the Donald Trump side, attempting to find some sort of respite regarding the Strait of Hormuz. They're also trying to use Pakistan for that. But likely there was some sort of negotiation that happened for this to occur because previously that wasn't happening. Donald Trump was not allowing. And here's the issue I have, like, in what authority does the U.S. control all of the seas and all of the oceans movements? I mean, the fact that they have to basically talk to Donald Trump and find some sort of conversation about it is insane. Russia's a sovereign country. Same with Mexico, right? And that's the thing. And by the way, they've been attacked multiple times by the United States, by NATO, and the EU, which is what we talked about before. So they wouldn't just risk losing a ship of oil for it to get blown up under the circumstances that we have going on in the Strait of Hormuz. In spite of the fact that they are an energy producing country, they still wouldn't do that. So something had to happen for this to take over. But I really, truly hope the most important thing of all is that it gets to the Cuban people, because as much as humanitarian aid we can bring, it really does very little. It's a Band-Aid solution. They have to be able to have energy. They have to be of have power. And I don't think it's going to change the trajectory of what will happen with Cuba. But I do think Cuba is willing to fight. A lot of the people there are willing to fight. And everything that's happening is just tragic that nobody has been able to just tell the United States, no, we're not going to listen to you. It's if everybody did that, then things would be different. So,
yeah, somebody put in the chat that they are walking on eggshells, Russia, China, and Iran, because they're afraid that the psychos in the United States would start a global human catastrophe. And
I don't think Iran's walking on eggshells. Yeah. Iran is definitely not walking.
Not anymore. Not anymore. That's for sure. They were, but not anymore. Did you have a video you want to play, Jayme? From this here, did you want to play this, fam, or no?
I don't know what this is. I don't know what you're talking about.
Jayme, what do you got? Go ahead, get it up. Yeah. Is this it?
Oh, I wasn't gonna play the video, but yeah. I can't read it because there's a banner is on there. But if you want me to read it, I can read it.
All right, let's do this real quickly. You're saying these were talks that went on behind closed doors, and
he's saying that there was a conversation had. It's not me saying it. Under conditions of an extremely harsh blockade, our Cuban friends are in need of petroleum products and oil. This is necessary for the operation of life support systems in the country, for an electricity generation, and for providing medical and other services to the population. And of course, Russia considers it duty not to stand aside and to provide the necessary assistance to our Cuban friends. And we are pleased that the shipment of petroleum products will arrive on the island, or rather has already arrived. As for the American side, I can only confirm that this issue was indeed raised in advance.
Okay. Right there.
During contacts with our American counterparts, as I stated.
So why would America permit Russia to do this and not permit anybody else? Like, obviously they cut off from Venezuela and whatnot. Why would they permit Russia to do this and not anybody else?
Because there are things that they've discussed that perhaps the Donald Trump administration more than likely has asked of Russia, and Russia then is seeking to negotiate. And hey, this is something good for Cuba, right? For whatever reason, I don't believe the ends justify the means, but I do think in this case that was something that was able to happen is a good thing. What I don't think is the reason is that it is a humanitarian. I'm not convinced they are being driven by an ideology to just help, not because they're evil people, but because the way they conduct politics is extremely pragmatic, as I've said before. The way they conduct deals is, and the same for China, by the way. They say, all right, we will trade this and we will get this. That's the way geopolitics of today work. It's not, we're just going to give this for free or anything like that. I think some people believe that, but that's not the reality of the world. So I'm wondering myself, what exactly is it that they have offered the United States? We know that they were talking about negotiations in Ukraine. We know that Iran came up because obviously the situation, it's the same people dealing with the Iran situation as from the US as is dealing with the Ukraine situation. So what likely concessions or negotiations happened? Something happened because Donald Trump flipped on this and this oil actually was allowed to reach. There's no way it would have been allowed. There would have been more of a conflict after all this. And let's not forget that Russia just had its energy sectors attacked multiple times by NATO. So I'm sure that also came up in the conversation. And he said specifically that our last meeting with our American counterparts. So it was the last meeting. Also remember that Russia has been receiving a lot of negative press lately. And, from a PR perspective, for me, if I was a PR specialist, I'd say you gotta turn things around. You gotta do something that shows that you are actually going to stand up to the West, because a lot of people are kind of like saying, "What are you doing? Why are you running to Trump and the Kushners?" Right? So from a PR perspective, if I'm a PR person working for Russia, I would say you have to do something to counter this image that's happening. So I think, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, I think that also is a part of that as well.
I think of the Margaret Kimberly tweet about Russia. Would you take your head out of your ass and please help out, or are you just going to just talk the whole time? So it makes sense when you say there had to be a PR move by the Russians and they had to say, hey, you got to give us something. Let some oil get into Cuba. Do you know how much oil this is? And I mean, I know they say tons.
It's 100 tons.
Yeah. How long is that going to last Cuba? Is that just going to put a little, is it a Band-Aid over a bullet wound? So we need to really,
I was just going to say, fam, it's better than a Band-Aid, but it's definitely still some type of like gauze, right? It's not going to solve the root of the problem. That's the unfortunate part, right?
By the way, this is the Wyatt Reed that got the community note. By the way, we want to send love to our friend Wyatt Reed. In January, Trump signed an executive order 14380, placing harsh tariffs on any country caught directly or indirectly supplying oil to Cuba. In February, when a Greek flag tanker tried to bring 80,000 barrels from Colombia to Cuba, the U.S. Coast Guard intercepted it, forcing the ship to sail to the Dominican Republic. In March, when the U.S. sought to stabilize oil prices after starting a war with Iran, the OFAC issued waivers for Russian crude. As Russian tankers approached the island, the U.S. placed Cuba on a tiny list of countries it said were still not allowed to buy Russian oil. 2 ships were en route, changed course under pressure. If we had actual journalists instead of brainless morons smiling and nodding below, they would have pointed this out to Rubio. And this is the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who won his confirmation 99-0. Not one person objected. Where you at, Bernie Sanders? Where you at, Rand Paul? The reason why Cuba doesn't have oil or fuel because they want it for free, fam. Cuba is a disaster because their economic system doesn't work. And here is the president. By the way, they put a community note there. And half the time when you try to click on it, let's see if it does it this time. Last time it wasn't allowing me to look at the community note, but this is Marco Rubio.
France to talk about Cuba, but let's talk about Cuba. It's perfect. I happen to do it because we actually talked about it in the G7. So it's actually no, of course not. Plus, we talked about it in the G7. Okay, everybody talks about these blackouts. Cuba's been having blackouts all of last year, all the year before. There isn't a naval blockade surrounding Cuba. The reason why Cuba doesn't have oil and fuel is because they want it for free. And people don't give away oil and fuel free on a regular basis unless it was the Soviet Union subsidizing them or Maduro subsidizing them. They just don't do it. They may get a shipment here or there now and then someone, but not enough to sustain their country. Okay, so the reason why they're having that's why they don't have fuel. And the reason why they're having blackouts is because they have equipment from the 1950s and 60s that they never maintained or kept up. Okay, but ultimately the reason why Cuba's a disaster is because their economic system
there it goes.
Doesn't work. It's a nonsensical system, and the people of Cuba are suffering because of the decisions, because of the unwillingness of the people who govern that country to make the changes that need to be made so they can join the 21st century. It is sad that the only place Cubans can only be successful if they leave the country. That's a very sad thing.
And
so they can take it all and privatize it and put their hotels there and control it like they did before, like a freaking, island where there was prostitution and crime, but instead just luxury condos and real estate income for Kushner, for all the freaking politicians. That's what they want. They want to make it worse than Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that kind of narrative to the conservative base in this country, they buy into that we have to have this war of ideology, right? It's about communism. Communism is a failing. Look at what's going on. Not even mentioning the blockade, and they're lying about it. Once again, here's Marco Rubio lying about it. Donald Trump has said nothing in, nothing out. That's it. No oil getting in, nothing getting out. They know this for years. They've been doing this really harsh since the 1990s. They did this beforehand. The reason why Cuba is failing, and it's kind of amazing. They're making a case for communism that it was able to survive that long under the blockade and sanctions of the United States. That is the main issue over there. Not to say that they don't have internal problems and there's not issues that the Cuban government really needs to face. But they have said before they want to make a move away from this old school traditional communism and not control so much, only control certain sectors of the economy. They've said this themselves, but yet America's not listening. America doesn't care. This is about imperialism. They want the island. They want to control it again. It's not about the system that they have. It's more about imperialism, fam. So just want to point that out. By the way, as we get into this, fam, we got some breaking news because this was on Fox News today. Anything else to say about Cuba? Or should we move on?
No, we can. Yeah.
Let's take the Russian oil to Cuba down. Jayme, let's get to the next section. Breaking news. This was on Fox News today. It seems like, at first we see the whole, we're giving you 48 hours. Iran says, screw you. Okay, we're giving you 5 days. Iran says, still screw you. And then Trump goes, we're giving you 10 days. It almost is like people are like, what is the hell is going on? It's obvious that this is not, the war is not won when Donnie says, it's already won. We're flying over to Iran. By the way, we got to watch out for China. No, I mean, Iran is still missile attacks every day on Israel. Infrastructure in the region they're attacking every single day. But it seemed like they wanted to get troops in position. I don't know, fam, if they're crazy enough to do this, but are they going to try to open up the Strait of Hormuz? Are the Americans really going to try this, fam? This is what was said on Fox News this morning from our, who is it? Scott Besson. Take a listen. Guys, you're watching the TruthWire. Thank you so much.
The market is well supplied, and we are seeing more and more ships go through on a daily basis as individual countries cut deals with the Iranian regime for the time being. But over time, the U.S. is going to retake control of the straits, and there will be freedom of navigation, whether it is through U.S. escorts or a multinational escort. The market is well supplied, and we are seeing more and more ships go through.
All right, fam, Your initial thoughts? We are going to take control of the Strait of Hormuz. Listen, fam, the Pentagon told Donald Trump beforehand, if in fact you attack Iran, they're going to close the Strait of Hormuz, right? And if they close the Strait of Hormuz, we have no way to open it up right away. He knew this going into that. Your thoughts, initial thoughts, fam, on this breaking news?
I don't understand why this is breaking news. They say this shit all the time. Iran is not going to budge on their decision. They've already laid it out every single time. They say we're not going to open it to any Americans or allies of the Americans that are bombing Iran. They just bombed Iran's energy sector, which is extremely important. They're threatening to bomb the desalination plants. They're threatening to basically attack the life source of Iran. Why would Iran allow this to happen? No, they're not going to make a deal under these circumstances. They are very determined to not do anything, which is why the United States and Israel are getting desperate. And I fear they are seeking to resort to worse methods because Iran is not budging. This is not any other country that they've dealt with. This is a millennia old civilization that is far more intellectual than the United States is, and I think will ever be at this point. But it's also, they're also humble, and they're also very aware of how the United States operates. They've learned every little tick of how Westerners, especially US Americans, are. They've studied it, they've analyzed it, they've been preparing for this. They're putting out 1 million troops in Iran. This isn't propaganda. Like, their propaganda is, the extent of their propaganda is the AI Lego videos, and they do a very good job of that. But in terms of, like, you know, more newsy type of propaganda, they've never, like Russia and like others, they've never been really good at it. You know, China is also included in this. This isn't just them speaking, you know, out of nothing. This is them being serious. And I don't think we're going to see the United States be capable of doing this. But I do fear they are targeting Pakistan, because Pakistan, I think, is playing like the double-edged sword. Very much like Turkey tends to do, you know, kind of play both sides. And I think they are trying to use as much as possible anybody else to try to surround Iran. Israel obviously is trying to do that in Syria, Iraq, the United States and Iraq, but it's not working because there's resistance factions there too. So that's just my take on that whole thing. Fam. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with Pasta. Okay. So Jayme, if you can put up the next one.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. I'm having internet issues right now. I'm trying to fix it. I just reset the thing. I was on air move. Okay, so fam, more troops come to the Middle East. Your thoughts on this too as well, because this almost, and it's kind of interesting on RT today. They actually did the whole room where they had like the map up talking about it, like, you know, what you see on MSNBC or Fox News, where they're kind of analyzing stuff to the screen. They had a retired American military personnel that was over on the show talking about Karg Island. It seems like they want to take Karg Island first, right? Like, because that's one of the 4 stations. And I also want to point out, fam, that they did hit energy infrastructure inside of Iran. But
yes,
unlike all the other Gulf states, unlike Israel, the energy infrastructure in Iran is somewhat decentralized. This is what I learned from my connection in Iran, that they have energy infrastructure that's almost like the military, where so many things are separated that if you take one out, the other ones still work. And they understood this for years, so they built their energy sector that way. So even though there are millions right now that have had blackouts, the majority of the country still has their energy. And they do the same thing with their water, right? The desalination. They don't depend on those two. They have other sources of water. So unlike the other countries, in other words, if Iran does the same thing that Israel does to them when they're hitting energy infrastructure, Israel is going to have a larger price to pay because they're more centralized with their energy infrastructure, unlike Iran, which is more decentralized, different power plants all over the country in different spots. So Iran is going to be able to last through these shots. But they have said, If you hit our energy infrastructure, we'll hit the regions. And that's what's been going on. So it does seem like the United States definitely wants to try to take Karg Island. They want to open up the Strait of Hormuz. This is more evident of it, right? They already have 50,000 troops in the region. A lot of their troops and all their bases, which are bases are wiped out, are hiding in hotels. Even some of them have been flown to Europe, and they're hiding out, fam. But what do you see? What do you think when you hear this? 3,500 more troops arrive. Special forces arrive. Do you think they're going to do a land invasion?
I mean, I didn't think before that they were that stupid, but I think they're willing to try anything. I think they're desperate. I think the behavior of the United States just shows desperation. And I think a lot of the analysis that people are getting is coming from a Western centric lens. Like, you can kind of predict very easily what the United States will do. They're going to try everything, but if they get enough intel to say, hey, this is actually not going to go well for you, I think they're going to resort to using more proxies and then eventually a weapon. And that's what I fear the most, because you say, they want to take the Strait of Hormuz. They want to reopen this. They want to take Karg Island. They want to do, I want a pony. Like, you can want whatever you want, but that's not going to happen. Like, just because they want something doesn't mean they're going to get it. Like, they've been so used to just taking what they want. We just saw Pete Hegseth, and we don't have time to talk about this today, but like, they're basically going to try to take all Latin America. This is not stopping here. This is not just about the region, but it is Iran and the resistance that are standing up for the rest of humanity. Because as you can see, they're not stopping with Iran. They're not stopping with the Middle East. They're literally going and trying to take everything north of the equator and saying that that's the Americas. It's not really South, the global South. That's literally what Pete Hegseth said. So like, I think people need to understand here, this is a war on the trajectory that will determine the trajectory that humanity will take. Yeah. And either we're going to descend into utter chaos and darkness, or we're going to be able to have a fighting chance against it. And literally, Iran's victory is dependent on this. And if we allow them to be destroyed, it's just humanity will go down from there. That is really where the stakes are. It's not about what the United States wants. Iran is not going to give up on this. This is a fight to the death, is how they're looking at it.
By the way, the Lego video we played in the video beginning of the show was the newest one. I've never seen anybody troll Donald Trump as well as Iran has. I mean, it's just crazy with the Lego videos. Jayme, you can put up the next tweet, the picture right there, the 50,000 troops. We just have pictures of the gear being unloaded. New York Times reports U.S. military has confirmed that American forces in the Middle East have exceeded 50,000 troops. And Jayme, you can just show the picture. There's some GPS news. They're just wheeling them on in. Heavy equipment's coming on in. This is like return to the scene of the crime, right? Iraq, Iran, here we go again. Except Iran is not Iraq, and they've been preparing for this for quite some time. If they do this, first of all, I know they're hiding the number of American troops that are killed or seriously injured right now. They are hiding that like there's no tomorrow because it would be unpopular. I don't know what the laws are. Somebody should look into it. What's the law? How long can they conceal that information? How long do we see mothers and fathers and wives on the intranet crying that they've lost their husband or wife or son or daughter or whatever the case may be? That's going to happen sooner than later. They're bringing in all this heavy equipment, fam. So this looks to get hairy, even more hairy if they go ahead and do this. You have something from Vanessa Beeley here, I see, if you'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, if you can put it up, Jayme. This is just referencing what you were talking about, another perspective. So the New York Times, right, said that there are 50,000 U.S. troops scattered across the Zio Arab states on the Persian Gulf. However, these operational facilities are being bombed by Iran on a daily basis. It raises the question, are they still fully operational? Then the New York Times article informs us that the number of troops no longer includes the 4,500 aboard the aircraft carrier USS Gerald Ford. However, that ship has been hobbled by constant mishaps, including a fire that broke out in the laundry. Supposedly, the Ford withdrew from the region. This is what the New York Times says, right? On March 23rd and sailed to Crete. On Friday, it arrived in Croatia. It remains unclear where it's headed next. Last week, the Pentagon also ordered 2,000 soldiers from the Army's 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East to give Mr. Trump additional military options. So she says, however, it goes on to say, you scroll up, thank you, but military experts caution that even 50,000 troops, many of them at sea, is a small number, right, when you're facing a million Iranians who know exactly the terrain. A small number for any kind of major land operation. Israel used more than 300,000 troops for its operations in the Gaza Strip that began in October 2023. The U.S.-led coalition that invaded Iraq in 2003 was close to 250,000 at the beginning. 93 million Iranians versus the 50,000 U.S. troops already being pummeled by Iran is not a viable option. And I think this is in agreement to what we've been talking about. It seems like a lot because, okay, 50,000 American lives wasted for the Epstein cabal. I think we're going to see increasing opposition to this war just based on that alone. But logistically and militarily, like, I'm not a military expert, but just on a logical basis, those numbers don't match. And neither does the fact that Iranians who are going to fight are fighting with a greater sense of purpose. They know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. They know exactly what's to come. They know the terrain. They've been preparing for this, as you said, for a very long time. U.S. American soldiers are going there and they don't know what the hell is going on. And let me tell you, because a lot of them are really young, not everybody, but a lot of them are really young, inexperienced. They're just cannon fodder for this. And Iran is trying to tell them, this is not going to go well for you. I don't know if they are going to be that dumb or if they're just going to like botch it very quickly and move on to something else. That's what it seems like they're doing, because they are sending people there. But I think as we've been saying all along, we're not getting the real numbers. We are getting some information from Iran that they have been targeting and capturing U.S. soldiers from multiple arenas. We are getting information from Iran that they are now going to go after the homes of the commanders and top officials that are in the region. So they've already laid it out. They've already said as much. So I think we're just getting a lot of silence, a lot of avoidance from the U.S. and a lot of flat out lies by Trump, right? I think they just sit him in a room and they just tell him like, hey, Trump, watch this movie. And then he goes out and does his thing. Like, I don't even think Trump is as aware as people think he is about what's going on here in this war.
Larry Johnson said on Judge Napolitano's show that his favorite meme is the one where we loved it all the time. Remember when the Russiagate story was going crazy and it was a guy sitting with this therapist, and the therapist will say, well, so tell me, Brian or Michael or Jill, whatever, are the Russians in the room with us right now? They're doing the same thing over there with that situation. Are the Iranians in the room with us right now with Donald Trump laying on the bed? Like, it's just, where's his mind at? But my favorite meme is Donald Trump on the floor with a map, and he's got like the little plane jet and the tanks, and he's playing little stuff on the ground over there. The Iranians you've been talking to for 2 days, are they in the room with us now? Like that's great right now, because the Iranians they're like, we're not negotiating nothing. If you can find the one with Donald Trump playing with the little toy jet and the tankers and all that stuff, like he's sitting on the floor of the Oval Office, just like you said, fam. They take him in, he watches some movie, comes out, all right, yeah. It's like, that analyst that was on RT today is like, Donald Trump knows nothing of Vietnam. We all know how many deferments he had, right? Like how many times he avoided the Vietnam War when he was a child. Forget about it. So, I mean, that's that. But I think that really, I don't know if you got it, Jayme. Did you get it? No? Okay. No big deal. What's not being told right now, fam, is while all this stuff is going on with Iran, people are talking about, the Persian Gulf, talking about Karg Island, what's going to happen, ground invasions. Israel keeps doing and trying to gain more land in Lebanon, but it seems like Hezbollah is fighting back pretty strong. But I wanted to pull this from antiwar.com. Israel sends more ground troops into Lebanon as occupation destruction mounts, and the phosphorus munitions being used to target civilian infrastructures across southern Lebanon. It's just more par for the course, fam. They do this all the time. Iran put out a statement on their medium, like almost 20 hospitals were bombed and 10 schools were bombed. And when I asked my source, like, why are they bombing hospitals and schools inside Iran? They know. You know what his answer was? Because that's what they do. We're the terrorists. We're the ones who go crazy. And this is more about, I don't think what's being talked about, because I don't know when the dust settles, fam, if Israel is going to have South Lebanon. I don't know if Hezbollah is going to fight back. You would know more about this. But this is by Jason Ditz, and this is from March 26th. Israel has announced that they are sending another division of ground troops into southern Lebanon as part of an invasion that began earlier this month, in which earlier this week, Defense Minister Israel Katz, fam, your favorite person in the Knesset, would include the occupation of the entire area of south of the Litani River. And a lot of people have known this for quite some time, that they were going to go after everything south of the Litani River. They want it. They're going after it. And it feels like they're almost making this maneuver, completely cleansing, ethnically cleansing Gaza completely, still bombing and killing people over there every day. Nobody's talking about that. Going into South Lebanon. This is the 5th division to be sent into Lebanon since the invasion began. And the 6th division, the 98th division, is reportedly being prepared to be deployed as well. So they're getting more troops behind them, fam, from Israel to get in, the IDF, to get into southern Lebanon. Occupying such a large amount of territory is no small task, despite efforts to depopulate the area ahead of time. We know over 1 million and change of people in Lebanon have declared they have no living status, right? Claiming that they've been displaced and they can't go back. And some of the rhetoric that we heard is very much what we heard in the late 40s, early 50s. When people in Palestine were told, get out of there now, and later on you can come back. They were never able to come back. That same language is being applied here in Lebanon. Human rights groups are also expressing a growing disquiet about how much Israel's focus inside southern Lebanon is wiping out towns and villages and setting the stage for an open-ended displacement of hundreds of thousands of civilians that live there. And you can see on that map, fam, the areas they are trying to go into. So I just wanted to get your opinion about what's going on. Is this the real story that's being missed right now? Is that even though there's a war, not by you, but by a lot of other people, they're not even talking about Lebanon. I mean, it's definitely not even never mentioned on mainstream media. And most people are concentrating on what's going on with Iran. You're saying it's not being missed, but go ahead, fam. Tell us what you think about this whole situation right now.
Well, yeah, it's definitely being talked about by like people of the region, people who are experiencing it. And I just think a lot of Western, again, independent media doesn't really go to these sources. They just go to like Western sources that don't really understand what's going on, because there's like, it's a lot going on. And for a lot of Americans, it's like all in the same area, but it's not. Like, and Lebanon is experiencing a new Nakba that's going to displace, it's already attempting to displace 2 million plus people. And I talked about it in my podcast with Vanessa, Critical Perspectives. She dove deep into it because she went into southern Lebanon. And as you said, Pasta, it's south of the Litani River is the area that they have been going after. And in this area, there's a lot of, I would say, a lot of older people that are there that refuse to leave. So basically, Israel's been keeping this area, trying to target this area, and is basically throwing off. And let me add this map here. Can you take this one? Let me remove this one. Let me add this one here. So this is what it used to look like, right? This is a 1978 map of the area that Israel intended to occupy in Lebanon. This has now extended to include the Litani River. So they want to take a whole south of all of this. And they're not going to stop until they take the whole thing. Let's just be honest. This is just what they did in the occupied West Bank. Now, Vanessa wrote this article. It's on UK Column if you haven't seen UK Column, and I'll put it in the chat for all of you. But it really goes through a lot of this situation that is people are enduring. You can see some of these pictures here. These are 3-story apartment blocks destroyed. This was in January. And then there's a couple more photos here. These are the strikes in the center of town. These areas are actual residential areas. There's zero military infrastructure or anything that they can claim to do. So Israel has been violating the so-called ceasefire for a long time before this war happened, which is why it was no question, right, that Lebanon Hezbollah was going to fight. And she just talks about like the destruction and all of that, and the craters. Yeah, I mean, it's different to see it online, but once you see it in person, I think it's something else, right?
Yeah.
So these people, this old man, he doesn't want to leave, and a lot of these older people don't want to leave. This is our home. This is how a lot of people in Lebanon have this mentality, like, this is our home, we're not going to leave, we're going to stay here. And so it's basically become a forced displacement, but effectively a Nakba, right? Effectively a Nakba. And this has been historically an area, southern Lebanon, that's persecuted. And a lot of people, you're right, a lot of people don't know about it just because it's very specific, but this is why Hezbollah is fighting. And I think they've been targeting the Merkava tanks for a long time, but now they've upped the ante and they've been destroying them on a daily basis. And again, at a great cost to them, because a lot of people are dying, just the same as a lot of people are dying in Iran. But I think these people are more than willing to do it. And here's the, I'm sending the link right now. But, that's what it is, fam. It's forced displacement. It's a Nakba. And it's terrible. But guess what? Hezbollah is not going to give up. They have the same mentality as Iran. This is why they're considered the axis of resistance, and they've been just giving Israel everything they've got, in spite of the fact that Israel has been hitting them hard as well. So,
Middle East Eye reported that 1,200 dead. Right, tops 1,200 as Israel vows to change the north, and it says Lebanon's health ministry says more than 1,200 people have been killed over the past 4 weeks. That's since pretty much this Iranian war started, as Israel attacks intensify across the country. The ministry said that the dead include 124 children, with more than 3,500 others wounded. Over the weekend alone, 49 people were killed, among them 10 rescue workers and 3 journalists. Fam, fears are mounting that the toll will rise further after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel is determined to fundamentally change the situation in the north. So his eyes are set on getting that territory, fam. And then we have from the Middle East Observer, right, their tweet about Hezbollah reaches 1,000 operations since the beginning of the war on March 2nd. The military media, this is just the beginning. And my question to you is, because I was saying, will Iran help with a ground invasion or a ground troops to stop the occupation of southern Lebanon, or is Hezbollah a worthy adversary enough to drive Israel out of Lebanon again, in your opinion, now that they've intensified their attacks and reaching 1,000?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't think they're going to drive them out. Because again, they're going to fight back. They're going to die fighting back. And if Iran has anything to do with it, I think what we're going to just see is the bigger expansion of the war. Yemen entered the chat, right? They actually officially did enter the war. Yeah. So, I think you're going to talk about that in a second. And I have to say, it's Ansarallah, specifically the group, because I don't know if we discussed this here, but the Houthi term does come from the Western recognition of the government that Ansarallah considers illegitimate. So when people say Houthi, they don't like it. That's just, I think a lot of people don't know that, but it's just one of those things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really quickly, I just want to pour on. I don't want to let off the fact that Israel blocks the top Catholic leaders from Palm Sunday Mass at the Holy. I mean, fam, you can't make this shit up. The other day, literally, you can throw this up there. It just says church bodies in Jerusalem say more. Says move sets a grave precedent and is tainted by improper considerations. And you see a Palestinian Christian holds a cross and a palm from the doors of the church. I can't barely read that. Small. It says Israel's forces blocked 2 senior Catholic leaders from reaching the church and occupied East Jerusalem to celebrate Palm Sunday Mass, fam. And that got a lot of attention, right? For some reason, when Christians get the brunt of the bullshit, that's when they'll talk about this stuff. But there's a lot of talks, and a lot of people have been talking about the Zionists don't even respect the Christians over there. So why are we doing this? Also, I want to point out, We have some breaking news yesterday that Trump tells the reporter that Iran is giving the U.S. 20 boats of oil, which will be going through the Strait of Hormuz starting tomorrow morning. And we have some audio, fam. I wanted to get your opinion on this. This is the gift that they had talked about. I don't think this is a gift. I think that they paid and they bribed the Iranians for letting this go, and they're keeping it quiet. And the Iranians are like, yeah, they paid a shit ton of money to get that oil. That ain't no present. They paid for it. But take a listen to this. This is Donald Trump at the gaggle on Air Force One.
We also are dealing directly, and as you know, they've agreed to send 8 boats 2 days ago, and then they added another 2, so it was 10 boats. And now today they gave us as a tribute, I don't know, I can't define it exactly, but they gave us, I think out of a sign of respect, 20 boats of oil, big boats of oil, going through the Hormuz Strait. And that's taking place starting tomorrow morning. Over the next couple of days, a lot of boats.
Fam, we know that if this happened, this is not a gift. This is, they paid to get this done, to get this through. They might not have had to pay in yuan, but they had to pay dearly for this. And I think in the next couple of days, I want everybody to pay attention to this. I think in the next couple of days, we'll see a statement from Iran saying that they had to pay us like crazy to get it done because the Strait of Hormuz is closed. So this is, I mean, once again, this is Donald Trump weaponizing something, more rhetoric. I don't even know if this guy knows what's going on, but I will guarantee, fam, that this was not a gift, that they made them pay dearly for this. And more information we'll find out over the next several days. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I for sure.
Yeah. And Sarala, not the Houthis, get involved. I have a clip. I don't think we have to play the whole thing, but it says Yemen Houthis have launched a second missile and drone assault on Israel, promising to continue until Israel ceases its attacks and aggressions. And this is from Al Jazeera. And then, fam, maybe you can explain one more time again why we should call them Ansarallah and not the Houthis, because I'm having a little hard time understanding it. But they did get involved in this whole game, in this whole war. So now you have both Yemen, Iraq, Iran now, who have declared war on the United States. So take a listen.
We've been reporting Yemen's Houthis have joined the conflict in the Middle East. Well, the group says it launched a second attack on Israel and that it'll launch many more strikes in the coming days.
In response to the enemy's crimes on our people and our countries, and in support of the freedom of the people, we'll continue, with the grace of God, to carry out military operations in the coming days until the enemy stops its hostilities and aggressions.
Yusuf Mauri is live for us in the Yemeni capital, Sana'a. And Yusuf, are we now starting to see the Houthis widen the types of weapons, munitions used when you look at their second strike?
Yes, and this is why they also launched the drones, the Samad drones that they have used previously. These are drones that fly at a very low altitude and are able to bypass Israeli air defense system, as we have seen in the past. But now we have even warning from United Kingdom maritime agencies warning that the Ansar Allah Houthis could be on the verge of targeting ships in the Red Sea, in the Gulf of Aden, and in the Arabian Sea. In fact, the United Kingdom Maritime Agency is calling on all vessels to not go anywhere near Yemen's coastal line off the port of Hodeidah, Aden, and also in other various parts in the south of the country. The Ansar Allah Houthis are not just targeting, they're not going to be just targeting ships in the Red Sea, they're also going to be targeting ships in the Arabian Sea and even also the Indian Ocean, as we've seen them target ships before.
That's good, Jayme. Can you stop
US
that?
And Israeli flagged.
By the way, and if you can take that down real quick, Jayme, I want to put this one up. Take yours down. Thank you. I didn't put this in the Bab al-Mandab Strait, fam, which is another strait on the other side near Yemen. If they close that down, this could really affect what's going on. It says Yemen's Houthi group, an Iranian ally, says it's ready to intervene in the Iran war if new allies join the U.S. and Israel, or if the Red Sea is used to launch attacks on Iran. The Houthis have a strong influence over the Bab al-Mandab Strait, which controls over 6 million barrels of daily oil supply. Total offline capacity between the Strait of Hormuz and al-Mandab would near 25 million barrels per day, or 25% of the global supply, if Bab al-Mandab is closed, fam. That's on the other side, by the Red Sea over there. This could get seriously, seriously hairy if they close this down. And it looks like they might. Fam, that was a couple days ago. So your thoughts on what we're seeing right now with Ansarallah?
Yeah. Well, I think they've been actually really salivating to get involved because they are actually primarily a Sunni, but they are different. They have always been with the resistance, especially being the ones that have been launching the attacks against Palestine or against Israeli occupation in Palestine. And I think a lot of the time we kind of leave Yemen out of the conversation, and they are extremely skilled, extremely resilient. I think was it last year or before, when they were receiving a lot of attacks, they were just they continued going, kind of like the way you see people in Iran. And I think this is a very monumental part. And you're right, the al-Mandab is extremely crucial here, and they will be the ones having control of that, which is why I think it's super important. And the reason, again, for the Ansarallah thing, it's because the U.S. Saudi recognition of the government of Yemen is not the same as Ansarallah. So they've labeled them the Houthi rebels, and that's not who they are. So it'd be like somebody else calling the United States like, the United Stupid, and then people saying like, this is what we've designated is your name, but we not accepting that and calling ourselves something else. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But everybody uses the term, like especially Al Jazeera, because Al Jazeera is not it's oppositional to them, right? Saudis have a lot of push, and they're the ones that have decided which government to work with. It's just not one united thing. So that's why it's such a big deal, I think, for a lot of people.
By the way, we told people, right, about Bahrain. Carl Zah, a good friend, says regime change plan is working in Bahrain. And Bahrain erupts. Sunnis and Shiites unite against the Bahraini regime and foreign interference. They're in the streets. Now, fam, it did start with and you can show the picture, Jayme. They're in the streets marching. There was an activist who was supposed to be taken in from the Bahraini police force, was beat to death. He was an Iran supporter, or he's a supporter of nonviolence and whatnot. There's a big movement that a lot of people in Bahrain just wanted the United States bases out of there. We had talked about it. So this is when we tell you you're going to win at Thanksgiving, because we had said, keep an eye on Bahrain. We've been saying on the show for quite some time. UAE, Qatar, probably not going to be an uprising. That culture is not like that. But Bahrain, which used to be part of the Iranian empire years and years ago, where I think it was a part of the Iranian country, right? Bahrain was part of Iran when the Shah was in play. And I think they had I don't know when Bahrain became Bahrain, fan. I should maybe study up on that, but I know what we've been talking about in Bahrain looks like it's coming to fruition. There's going to be an uprising over there. The people had enough of the government. So
yeah, for sure there's going to be one. Do you have anything else? Because I do want to get to the nuke stuff, because that's
that's where we're at. Yeah, let's get to it. Oh, wait, the last one I have too, by the way, was just got to put this out there, fam, because this is important really quickly, because Donald Trump's been saying this war has been over, but there was a loss of an E-3G, which is the Airborne Early Warning and Control Aircraft. This is the big one that goes off, fam. We just want to show the pictures. The Iranians hit it on a Saudi base, on this Prince Sultan Air Base. Now, this is This is important because this is pretty much a flying air command. It's got the big giant satellite on top. It tracks all missiles and drones in real times. And there's not many in existence. The Iranians hit it the other day on a Saudi base, blew it up in half. It's done. They hit it. So this is very, very big. When we talk about these THAAD missile systems that the Iranians have hit, they're taking out all the eyes and the ears of the American forces. And this is a big time hit the other day, right? This is almost $1 billion plane. It's close to 800 million. And we don't have many of these, and it's very hard to replace these. You can't just snap your fingers and get them done. They hit it, and they got it, fam. This is very important.
Jayme says we have a lot of these.
14 of them. I heard we have 14 of them that are now in existence.
Maybe 14 in the region. We have a lot.
Yeah.
We have a lot of these. Yeah. They supplement all the ships, all the radar stations. They're all over the place. It's more. We have a lot more than the Russians do. That's for sure.
Well, maybe we should look that up. But they got one. They hit one the other day. So the fact that they can even hit that thing is crazy.
I think, again, I think a lot of people underestimate Iran's capabilities because they're not so flamboyant with it. You know, they're not just out in the open like this. They kind of keep a lot of things to themselves. And I believe like a lot of people underestimate Iran. Even right now, people are still underestimating them. I don't think we have seen fully what they are capable of. And there is news that they have other weapons that they have yet to reveal. And now more than ever, Iran will seek it's akin to its survival, the development of nuclear weapons, because they see that this is literally, there's no other solution to this. If they don't have them, they will be eliminated. And that's the reality. I don't advocate for nuclear war, but if the United States has nuclear weapons and others don't, who's going to use them? If Israel has a nuke and everybody else doesn't, who's going to use them? Who's already used them? And this is what I want to get to, what I want to end the show with. And I think is extremely important we talk about this. If you can start moving to the next tweet, Jayme, what happened over the weekend is extremely important for the development of the world, I think.
By the way, fam, I just want to point out that they said there was 31 of them. Now there's only 30 and only 16 are operational. So now 15 are operational. So that's what we got with that one aircraft. So please continue, by the way.
Okay. So while Iran is fighting the evil, much of the powerful leadership of the world is uniting to help the evil. Okay, so I want to kind of talk about what I'm talking about, because this is a big deal. So if you scroll down, Jayme, and you click on the tweet below mine, the one I'm quote tweeting, yes, from Mohammed Safa. Okay, he says, I don't think people understand the gravity of the situation as the UN is preparing for possible nuclear weapons use in Iran. This is a picture of Tehran. For you uneducated, untraveled, never served warhawks, licking your chops at the thought of bombing it, it's not some low population desert. There are families, children, family pets, regular working class people with dreams. You're sick to want war. Tehran is a city of nearly 10 million people. Imagine nuking Washington, Berlin, Paris, London, or beyond, bombed with nuclear weapons. I gave up my diplomatic career to leak this information. I suspended my duties so as not to be part of or a witness to this crime against humanity in an attempt to prevent nuclear winter before it is too late. Yesterday, nearly 10 million people protested no kings in the United States. The possibility of the use of nuclear weapons must be taken very seriously. It's dangerous. Act now. Spread this message worldwide. Take to the streets. Protest for our humanity and our future. Only the people can stop it. History will remember us. And you can go ahead and share the picture of that he has there. He basically leaked the information that the UN, quit it, was attempting to use nuclear weapons, was attempting to justify the use of nuclear weapons. And I just want to hear you out. Do you think that this would happen? Because I think that 100% it would happen. And the reason being is because they've gotten away with so much the United States and Israel. And the UN, we know, has been a Western controlled type of entity for a long time, where the power is residing clearly on one side. So
I'm going to give you
that's where
one
I'm at
better.
with that.
Do I think it would the Americans in Israel would use nuclear weapons? Is that the exact question?
No, that's not the question. Well, the question is, do you think that I mean, we know that they would use them, but do you think they're actually going to use them in this regard, that the danger is actually real, that they would do it? Because a lot of people say no, because it would just destroy, the whole economic sector, and they're kind of like more willing to work like in an economic way to get more things.
I don't think they just will use them. I think they planned on using them. I think that's why they entered in this whole thing, understanding exactly what would happen in the Strait of Hormuz, strangling people and suffocating small businesses and small people. Gas is up $1.50 here where I'm at in Boca Raton, Florida. It's up in like a month since this thing has happened. It's like $4.50 a gallon. It was at $3 a gallon. It's up. And then people are going to start the stranglehold over and over again. Remember, they were able to use it before and justify using it in Japan and make themselves look like the good guy for doing it. Like they saved lives for doing it. They have the most propagandized punditry out there. The people in the United States are the most propagandized, that the wool pulled over their eyes. And I think they'll get it to a point where they're going along with this. And maybe when they try to take Carg Island or they try to take one of these situations, you'll have a bunch of American deaths. And that's going to justify, I remember the way people were after 9/11. And George Bush was there at the site, and he said, the people who did this will feel our wrath soon. And a bunch of people applauded and everybody was going along with it, and eventually it took a long time before people seeing, wait a second. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. They thought they did. People were so uneducated. Our president didn't know the difference between a Sunni and a Shia. I don't think Donald Trump knows the difference between what the fuck's going on over there. He's just used to dupe the people. So I'm going to say that not only do I think that they will use it in this capacity and nuke Tehran, right? I believe the technocrats have been testing out their weaponry in Gaza, testing out their AI for quite some time. Now they're testing it out in Iran. They wanted to see what Iran had, what they can do. And I think they plan to use a nuclear weapon all along. And Iran was the site. And I think they're going to use it. The Samson option was not just on the table. It was the end goal and the objective for the Zionist American imperialist entity, and they're going to use it. So that's my belief.
And I hope we're wrong.
Yeah.
I hope we're wrong on that, right?
Me too.
Because
Me too.
yeah. I want to add further for what he said on this, and I'm going to try to make it bigger. So I can read it. So this is what he said on March 27th, 2026. After much reflection, after 3 years of patience since I wanted to resign in 2023, and after it became clear to me that some UN seniors are serving a powerful lobby and not the UN, I have decided to suspend all my duties as PVA main representative at the UN in New York, Geneva, and Vienna, and from all UN committee groups of which I am a member. I cannot in good conscience be a part or witness to what is happening at a time when the UN officials refuse to describe what is happening in Gaza as genocide, what is happening in Lebanon as war crimes and ethnic cleansing, that the war in Iran is illegal under international law, that Iran posed no imminent threat to the world peace. And clearly they do not want to accuse Israel and the United States of violating international law and committing war crimes, effectively shielding decision makers from such designation, all due to pressure from a powerful lobby. He's clearly talking about the Israeli lobby, in my opinion. Since 2015, I have long supported the goals and values of the United Nations established in the aftermath of World War II to promote peace and prosperity. Until October 2023, I was one of the UN champions of the earth, a critical voice for international law, human rights, and climate after that date, and after the same lobby imposed a new world order, which all started in Gaza. I mean, the stuff he's saying here is like crazy coming from a UN rep, because most of them are so milquetoast. But he's saying like there was an imposed new world order that all started in Gaza. And as I expressed my concern and offered a different perspective, I found myself facing a range of criticisms and allegations. I received death threats from me and my family, and the UN has abandoned me. I received financial penalties, and the UN has abandoned me. Now I am being censored at the UN, denied my right to freedom of expression, not by the UN system itself, but by UN seniors who abuse their power to serve that lobby. Earlier this year, senior officials and influential diplomats supported by global media and social media algorithms deployed a misinformation campaign claiming an Iran nuclear threat and sowed pro-war sentiments to encourage a war with Iran, but throughout the region further their own agenda. This lobby was used to deceive you into believing that Iran posed an imminent threat to world peace. That was a lie, and this is the same tactic used to commit genocide in Gaza, and the same tactic is being used now to ethnic cleansing and the occupation of Lebanon. The UN cannot make this mistake again. Until the reform process outlined by the UN Secretary General is meaningfully implemented, I regret that I must suspend all my duties. Since yours sincerely, Mohammed Safa, Executive Director and Main Representative at the United Nations. So that's, in my opinion, it's a huge deal that he did that. I think it takes courage to be indoctrinated in such a, kind of like such a structure where they've been saying, we condemn this, we condemn that, but do absolutely fuck all to fix the situation. And I think, as somebody that really thought international law meant something long ago, it stopped meaning anything since Gaza. Nobody has been able to stand up to the Americans or willing to do that. We have seen the China-Russia abstentions twice. Pasta.
Sorry. Yeah, my bad.
And we have literally witnessed this happening for a very long time, and nothing's been done. So I think the UN as a structure is completely useless. What's the point if they're just going to be controlled by the Israeli US contingent? That's essentially what he's saying, right? And we're at a point where if something happens to Iran, we're doomed. Because honestly, they are the ones that are standing up to the Epstein global, international predator class. That's what it is. This is what we're talking about. And he talked about a new world order. This isn't conspiracy. We're gearing towards Agenda 2030, and there's so much more to that is left to be talked about, fam. Yeah.
I do have you have this last one. Close the show with this. The girl. I have her dancing. Do you want to play that after or before?
Her dancing.
You have an Iranian girl crying about, right?
Yeah.
Is this the same Iranian girl that was dancing, or?
No.
It's a different girl. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is an opposition member of the diaspora from Iran, and she's crying because she realized that the United States has duped her, and she was anti the Ayatollah, protesting against the government of Iran. And here's what she has to say after watching Western reactions to the bombing campaign against Iran.
I cannot live in Europe anymore. I cannot be with these people. The conversations I had since Iran has been attacked, and they explain why is it a good thing. They're like, don't you think it's a good thing? Especially the first few days. And I was like, no, why don't you think it's a good thing? And I was like, I have to explain why I don't think my country being bombed is not a good idea. It's not normal. It's not a normal reaction to anything. This is not a reaction. And they were like, maybe you're a hardliner. You're defending your government. Yeah, I defend my government. I defend it. I protested for 20 years. I'm sorry. Supreme Leader, I fucked up. I am deeply regretting my actions. These people are not human. They come at me and say, yes, US did attack a school in your country, and yes, 200 children died. But they said it was a mistake. So, shit happens. To them, this is completely normal. There is a vast difference between us. I'm not racist. My country is not one race. Color means nothing to us. Race means nothing to us. We are proud of every race in my country. there is something wrong with you, like Westerns, all of you. There is something deeply wrong with you.
I mean, I don't know where in Europe she is, but it is, I think, depending on where you are,
Yeah.
you're going to see a lot of the justifications. Like where you are, Pasta, I'm sure that the conversations would go quite similarly to what she's describing.
Yeah.
Oh,
So this is what I was wanted to talk about, fam. We'll end the show with this too, as well. I thought it was the same girl, Moni
no.
Rahimi, the Iranian girl who went viral for dancing to a Trump song in support of the U.S. airstrikes on Iran, is now seen weeping bitterly. Her cousin was killed in the war, yet she lacks the courage to name the killer. And this was that whole situation with that Iranian girl dancing. You know, she is dancing.
Ma'am, don't
I know.
play that.
I am. I just turned it off. I turned it off. So she was seen dancing, and then she, you know, her cousin got bombed, and she's now weeping. Fam, that's the story of a lot of people that's going on right now. I think, you know, and I talked to my friend in Tehran. He's like seeing these people at these parties, whatnot, and he's telling them, man, you're supporting the enemy, you're supporting the invader. You're gonna change your tune one day when you see what the United States will do. And I think there's a lot of Iranians out there like now. I think the war against them from Israel and America has nationalized a lot of people in the country, and they're coming together to push back on the imperialism, the impending imperialism that's going on. Let's hope that it doesn't end in a nuclear war, and let's hope that Iran could see this thing through. You know, at one point, I believe the quickest way to peace for the Ukraine-Russia situation was a victory for Russia. We haven't seen it. Death and destruction still going on, but hopefully we'll see the end of it soon, fam. Guys, if you want to help us out, go ahead. I was going to put up our gift.
Sorry, I have to. We have to show this today because we didn't get a chance to talk about it. Just really quickly, what are you doing? Don't do it. Let me do it. Okay, so 3 Lebanese journalists were killed in an Israeli strike. So I want to say their names: Ali Shoaib, a reporter from Hezbollah affiliated Al Manar, and reporter Fatima Futuni and her brother, cameraman Mohammed Futuni, both from Al Mayadeen. They were killed in Jazin. And I just want to show you guys the car and the strike. So this is where the strike was. The girl lived, she ran off, and then they struck her again. So that's how it happened. And then this is a photo of the people protesting. You know, he was a very veteran journalist, I would call him, like older, long time. And she was much younger, but she was well known in the community of Lebanon. And I just want to, you know, say this is not normal, and we shouldn't pretend that it's normal for journalists to be targeted all the time, every single day, especially the journalists that are, you know, Lebanese or Iranian. They're ever in the more danger, but any journalist, Western, whatever, it doesn't matter, being targeted just for covering the news. It really has to stop. Again, the fact that the UN does nothing, this is illegal. This is illegal, and nothing is being done by it. They're literally just killing them all the time. It doesn't stop. Like, what is the solution other than actually fighting back and ensuring the destruction of the entity that is literally causing this? There is no other solution. You can't coexist with that. They're not going to stop until they take everything. So yeah, that's all I wanted to end with. So.
Give, send, go, guys. I want to thank Fred Edward, who jumped in there again today. What's up, Snow? Good to see you. Guys, we got 46 gives, 32 shares. We're over the 2,200 mark. Fred Edwards says, no more wars. They weren't saying that in the streets this week of No Kings. They were actually okay with what's going on in Ukraine. You know, I support Ukraine. You saw a lot of people talking. This was the Democratic Party using their power to get people in the streets. And fam, it's a shame that not enough people have a spot to voice their opinions, that they go out into the streets with these corporate events, and then the Democratic Party gets them on a list, gets them signed up, and it turns out we got to stop Trump. And then it turns into we got to stop the Republicans, vote for the Democrats. The only way to stop them. People are stuck in that two-party mentality, and that's what this was all about this whole weekend at the No Kings Parade. So, yeah, That sucks, but that's where we're at. Guys, I want to say thank you all for coming in today. If you can come on the show, if you can come on to our givesendgo.com/election integrity matters. Help us out. If not, give us a share. We need your help. We'll be talking about a lot of stuff going on. We'll be getting more boots on the ground and giving you that journalism that you deserve from me and Fee that we've been doing for quite some time with your help. I can't thank you guys enough. I remember when I did, fam, the Cause Fest, Rebels for a Cause, and somebody drove like 150 miles just to come give me cash because he wanted to support my work and he didn't want to do any donations online. It's times like that. I remember, I'll never forget that it was you guys out there who kept us going this whole time. We haven't had any corporate sponsors or no big player money come and give us money for doing what we're doing. It's been you guys. You guys have been the producers. So thank you so much, fam. Is that it for today? You got anything else to give us, or?
No, that's it. Just check out this new Substack and episode on critical perspectives. And that's it. And please go watch the debate between Pasta. The next debate I'd like to do on COVID is the cancer, ivermectin. That one, Pasta, you can for sure count me in on that one.
We got to see how many people we can get involved. This is the start of it. It was kind of cool that Ron and Leela Charles decided to come on with us. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just went on Ron's podcast and we said, let's continue to do this. So it's kind of cool that we are having these conversations. So we're going to check everybody in at 2:15. We're going to start at 2:30. Leela Charles Lay from the Punch Up podcast. She does it with Pat the Burner Pack Cote. Ron Placone will be here. And also Matt Weinglass from the Homeless Less. We're going to start this whole we're going to start this movement, fam, of having conversations like adults and coming to some conclusions rather than participate in cancel culture and see if we can understand each other, right? So that's coming up in just 15 minutes, guys. If you want to hang on in for Pasta Jardula, Fiorella Isabel, Jayme CheeseSlice on the ones and twos. Thank you so much. We'll be back Wednesday with the Truth Wire. Until then, truth out.
Bye.